And this is Meetings with Remarkable People. Tonight's guest, or today's guest, is Anthony Rockminster. And I'm a little confused on how to describe you, because you said that you're a motivational speaker, and I see you as something a little bit different. But I'd rather you tell me what you do before I sort of tell you what I think.
Okay, so what I do is intuitively work with people to channel their higher consciousness back to them, to give them awareness of what's happening in their life on an energetic level.
Okay, that's the way I would describe you. Because we had a private session, and that's exactly what was going on as far as I would feel, is that it's more of an energetic exchange, and that somehow you were tuning up my frequency, or we were doing it together somehow.
Exactly.
And yet, when I did your workshop last night, I felt like there was a different kind of something happening.
What did you feel was happening last night?
It seemed more motivational speaking, and sort of creating a reality, and not that the two are mutually exclusive. I just felt like the energy was higher when it was. And I know that sounds like a judgment, but when we were doing a private, I really was flying. It's quite amazing.
Thank you. Well, you created that, and in a one-on-one session, it's a lot easier to access the energy because you're relaxed and you're alone. And for myself also, working just with one-on-one is so much easier in one way, as I'm just melting into your energy. It feels like I'm not there. It's just you. It's just you being with you.
Right.
On an energetic level, I completely let go and allow you to come in and give yourself back energetically from me, through me.
And I think that you can do it in a group, because sometimes, don't you feel, the group energy really can create, when we were in Paul Lowe's workshop, I see him as a parabolic reflector, in that the whole group energy focuses into him, and then when he shares back with people, that it's intensified, and then the whole thing starts to cycle upwards.
Yeah, he is very inspiring, and I learned a lot from him, and I definitely would like to allow myself to gradually to ease into that. Being with groups is something that I love doing and I'm passionate about, and I'd like to continue to develop my skills with that, and I think that comes from practice.
Well, yeah, he's been doing it for 50 years or something like that.
And I've been doing it for 6 months, so I'd like to really develop that, to be able to create what we had together in a group is going to be amazing. To be able to create that, to get everyone on that page together.
And let's go back just a little bit and maybe explain to the audience who you are, because I'm interested too, and how you got to be, in this place you are now. What happened?
Where do I begin? What happened? My whole life has been a journey in searching for something more than what we can see. Everything that I've been doing, traveling the world, embarking on different careers.
Well, and you'd like to do extreme stuff as well.
Yeah, I like extremes.
Well, like you were talking about Jumping out of airplanes?
Yeah, I've skydiving, scuba diving, hang gliding, snowboarding. Everything that I'm terrified of, I've given myself the opportunity to do, so I can burst past that fear, and and realize that fear is just an illusion, and it's man-made.
One thing I liked is when you put up on the board last night, fear is not an option.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if, okay, you burst through your fear and then you end up dead?
Then you wouldn't be afraid. It would be game over. Game over.
Anyway, back to where so you jumped out of airplanes, you scuba dive, snowboard. Then what?
Then emotionally, I've worked through, and I think we continue to. It's everyday process of everything in my life that I've been afraid to deal with or accept, and that's really from the age of birth till now. Everything that's happened to me, I'm really processing that in a way that I can look back and there is no emotional attachment on a judgmental level.
Okay, so now you just told me your latest fear, that you don't like to be naked.
I love to be naked in a group of people in public. I haven't yet allowed myself to do it in a way that, yeah, I'm terrified.
And yet you're about to go to a workshop that's at a clothing optional resort. And I mean, to me, I would never have imagined that would have been one of your fears.
Well, no, and the thing is, I actually used to work at one point in my life as a stripper. So that.
But that's different.
It's different, exactly.
Because you're up on stage. Because I worked briefly as a stripper as well.
It's an identity, yeah.
I got fired for slapping a client, but that's another story. But well, no, actually, I didn't get fired. I quit because I thought this is dangerous, you know.
It was fun. It was
fun.
Though. Yeah.
But that's you have a power sort of over people when you're stripping, whereas when you're at a clothing optional resort, I think it's a different dynamic.
It's letting go of your identity, of covering up anything that you may have.
You don't think that you can hide behind your body?
I think you can try, but it's kind of obvious. It's kind of obvious with clothes. It's more subtle. But if you're completely naked, it's more obvious about how you feel about yourself, energetically.
So you're going to go out to Harbin. And I practically guarantee you that within a half an hour, it's not even going to be a big deal.
Oh yeah, completely. Is this going to be over with?
But I'm actually more curious now. What's your greatest fear when you take off your clothes? What are people going to? What are you afraid of?
How did this interview end up being about
I'm
me
sorry.
being naked? Why does it always end up about me?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you want, we can cut this out. This is for your corporate clients.
No, that's right.
Well, I just think that I guess I'm really all about transparency, and the teachers that I want to go and learn from are people that are really willing to be transparent about who they are.
Oh, I totally want to be and am, as far as I know.
I mean, it's sort of like this. My ideal teacher is someone who really walks the talk.
So shall we get naked?
No. We don't have to do that. I'm more curious about what people's fears are and why they have them, than I am about actually activating them in a way. It's sort of interesting how image conscious we are, and that how difficult it is for us to make certain parts of us, people to see parts, and how in different cultures, like, for example, Paula and I were at Harbin where, you can be naked, but you can't eat meat. Whereas in India, you're allowed to show your midriff, but you're not allowed to show this part. And
Right.
how we've gotten so conditioned to allow people to see certain parts of us and not others, and then we have shame over bizarre things. But that's
So back to my fears, I consciously run towards everything I am afraid of. I honestly believe that is how we progress, we expand our consciousness.
well. Okay, here's a question I have about fears. Then, sometimes I will force myself to face my fears, and sort of put on the armor, so to speak, and brace myself and do things that I find terrifying. And sometimes I end up overwhelming certain parts of me by forcing it to endure my fears and not overcome them.
Okay, well, being overwhelmed is just a distraction for not facing a specific area that is overwhelming me. Because we don't become overwhelmed, there's always one point, there's always one thing that is specific. And when we find that, we find the answer.
So how do you apply that practically? I'm not quite getting that.
So what is it that overwhelms you?
Okay, here's a perfect example. I was steeplechasing, which is really terrifying, was terrifying for me. I fell off during a race. Then the next race, I still haven't changed my technique enough to know that I'm really confident that I can get around the course. And when I was going after the start, you know how they say your knees get weak? I felt like I was going to fall off. I was so terrified. And I went ahead and started anyway. And I rode a great race for 2 miles, except the race was 3 miles. And I ended up falling off. And I guess I kind of felt like I forced myself to do it, even though maybe I probably should have said, let me pull up and I'm not ready to do this.
But you did it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So it's okay to sort of force yourself to face your fears?
Yeah, that's exactly. I give myself permission to go ahead anyway and do whatever it takes to face those fears. Because then it just takes away that darkness in your mind of distraction.
Right.
Of what if, or knowing that there's something there.
So let's say we faced all the fears. Then what?
Then we keep going, because we just keep continuing.
But let's go back to, Paul was saying the other day that you've had a nice opening, and when did you start really evolving, so to speak?
I think we're born evolved, and from that moment we have these veils or layers that we create in front of us, or we choose. And as we grow older physically, we can choose to remove those veils or add more. And throughout my life, I've been choosing to remove them. So what really happened at this opening was that
Cellular world. You were about to say something, and I said, hold that thought, so that, which probably isn't being too present, but what did you remember what you were going to say?
What happened to me was what's been happening to me throughout my life, but I consciously caught myself experiencing this other level which was seeing energy and seeing myself in this world that we're in on a completely different level, of experiencing heaven on earth, of really opening up Christ consciousness inside of me that I always knew was there, but I was so afraid to embrace or identify myself with. And when I did, this energy just surged through me, and I literally felt as if the old self left my body, and like an angel entity came into me, and I felt physically wings burst out of my back. And was laid onto my bed in this hotel room in Miami when it happened, and I felt as if I was completely reborn. I was given a new beginning, completely feeling clean inside of myself, in my soul. And I remember I went into the shower after, and I bathed myself, and I felt so new. My body felt like it was a new body. I felt totally in love with this body that I was in, that I'd never seen before until that moment. And I went out onto the streets, and this energy came through me, and I felt compelled to touch people and for the energy to come through and heal people and take away their pain, and I experienced them, something leaving them as I touched them, and people lighting up, and homeless people just thanking me and crying as I spoke to them, and just I felt just a shift in energy in the whole world. I realized that I've been living asleep, thinking that I was awake, and realizing that there isn't any suffering, and the only suffering on this earth was only ever inside of me. And when it lifted from me, I don't see any suffering now. I only see an opportunity to choose not to suffer, to feel, to experience heaven on earth, to feel free, to feel love. That's what I see now. That's who I am. I completely embrace myself. I saw myself. I've been searching for myself my whole life, and then I realized I found myself in that moment, and I completely fell in love with my soul, and realized that I'm so much more than I thought I was. And I have a responsibility that I always knew, to come to this world to make a difference, to touch the hearts and souls of every person in this world, and to give them the opportunity that I've been given to free myself from suffering of the past and of the present, and knowing that there is no future, there is no past, there's only today. What do I want to leave behind in the world? I realized I've been given everything that I ever wanted. So now I want to give back. I'm compelled to want to give back to the world, to people. Because I didn't know that you could live and not feel so much pain, and and to live and not want to hurt yourself, and just to make yourself want to be destroyed, because that's how I've always lived, on one level, whether it was mental, physical, or that's how I'd always lived, wanting to harm myself, and I never knew why. I always wanted to hurt myself, and I never realized it until that moment, that I was just living my life slowly trying to destroy my greatness inside of me, so I wouldn't have to carry out this responsibility to be in the world and stand up for as a leader of new consciousness who can make a difference, who gets to wake up for other people and not just myself.
That's beautiful. I mean, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
I get the feeling, Paul, are we running out of time? Oh, I thought I saw this over here. So, what came up for me when you were saying that is why do you think you wanted to destroy yourself? To avoid that responsibility?
Since I was a kid, I always felt in so much pain. I always felt like there was something wrong with me. I used to do many things I used to like try and drown myself in the bath, like by banging my head against the bath when I was under the water, and try to smoke myself to death, take as many drugs as I could, drink as much alcohol, take as many pills as I could, attempted suicide a few times, and I just noticed, and through sexual endeavors, through as many things as I could, I didn't know why, but it was this searching, this yearning for a connection, and I found it, and that's what I was looking for. I was always searching, and it wasn't the death of my body that I really wanted. It was the death of my suffering that I was trying to kill.
So basically that's what addiction is.
Yeah.
Is trying to kill that suffering.
And at that moment, my addiction or my suffering was lifted from me. And I believe that everybody does have this within them. Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's not drug addicts or people who drink. It's people. Every single person has this desire. It's a natural, built-in human instinct that we want to destroy a part of ourselves.
Well, and I think that it's just easier to see with the obvious,
exactly.
Drug addiction and alcohol addiction.
Through relationships, through work, through physical activities, through sleep, however it is.
But I think that that's a very eloquent way of describing addiction, is to kill the suffering. And then, so what switched? I still am fascinated by, all of a sudden it seemed like...
The moment that I was facing the mirror, I was walking up to a mirror in the hotel, and Rumi was playing the poetry, and it was exactly the words, and at that moment, as I walked to the mirror, the words came on that were being spoken. I have been searching for you, your face, all of my life, and now I have found you. And at that moment, I saw myself. And then he went on to say, I'm in love with you. And these amazing lyrics that just resonated with my soul, that lifted me out of my body and put me into my reflection, looking back at myself and seeing myself outside of myself. I was in ecstasy. And it was just an incredible moment that was transformational. And it was a moment of actually really, we all say, oh, I love myself, I feel love for myself, but it was a moment of falling in love with myself, with my soul, and realizing that I met my soulmate in that moment, and it was me. That's who I'd always been searching for my whole life. That's the missing parent, the wanted partner, the best friend. It was me. It was that connection, that level of connection that I always wanted with somebody else, outside of myself. And it was inside of me, and who would have ever have known? Even though the cliche, look inside of yourself and you're fine, it was to actually
experience it.
Experience
and I think that is what is so difficult to even explain, even while people are watching or even while I'm hearing you. And I've had experiences like this too, in a mirror as well. When I was 7 years old, I had a transcendent experience with the mirror, and everything disappeared. I mean, they talk about the witness and the seer. We have 1 minute left. So in this last minute, is there any way that people can reach you, like a website maybe, so that they can stay in contact?
So you can reach me at my Hotmail address, which is my name, Anthony Rockminster, at hotmail.com. And I would be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So that's ANTHONYROCKMINSTER at hotmail.com.
And you're going to be back in London and then back in New York, hopefully?
Back in London, New York, Australia. I plan on doing a worldwide tour.
Well, it'll be fun. I'm excited to see, because Paul sort of was very complimentary about you and really extended, not the olive branch, but kind of a hand to give you a leg up, so to speak. And, it's exciting to see the next generation.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, this is Molly Cheshire with Meetings with Remarkable People, and this has been Anthony Rockminster. And keep your eyes peeled, because he's coming up in the world.